Hi, boys and girls. It's Wednesday with Principal Sotero, so we're back in the kitchen doing something fun. Now, today, I know lots of boys and girls who love those sugar cookies. Cutout cookies. So many moms have different types of cookie cutters. They have trees and stars and balls, and today I have a doggy cookie cutter. So you see his little ears and his tail. Well, guess what? We're not making cookies or biscuits for you and I to eat, but for our doggies, because this month in November is National Kindness Month. And so we want to find some ways that we could do some things for boys and girls to give to their pets and maybe to your cousin's pets or your neighbor's pets. I'm making some right now for my pet, Prancer, and for the pet next door is my neighbor. So only 5 ingredients today, and they're actually only 2 colors. We've got white and brown. That's it. One thing is, to let you know, dogs love pumpkin. Did you know that? Like when your mom makes pumpkin pie, doggies love pumpkin, and it's good for them, really healthy. And also peanut butter. They love peanut butter too. So we're going to give them some of that. And then when your mom makes a pumpkin pie, she puts some spice in it. Cinnamon tastes so delicious. We're going to add some cinnamon because doggies like cinnamon too. But a lot of doggies do not like nutmeg. It's very bad for them. So even though mommies put nutmeg, or dads or grandmas or aunts put nutmeg in pies, not for doggies. Not for all breeds, but some breeds don't like it. So that means some types of dogs when I say breeds. So we're going to get ready to make our cookies, and I'm going to show you, are you ready, what one looks like? Because I made some up ahead. This is a doggy biscuit or a doggy cookie, but it's healthy for them and it's a great treat. So we're going to make them today, and then you can make some at home. Share some with your dog if you have a dog, or share some with a neighbor or a family member. Or it can be even for a little Christmas treat. You know how we're making gifts and things to give mom and dad and our families for Christmas? You could make something for your pet doggy too. All right, so let's get started, all right? Now I'm gonna make half a batch. Now, I needed to know my math when I cut it in half. Like when you're in first grade, you learn the doubles rule. Like 5 and 5 is 10, 10 and 10 is 20. Well, I had to actually go the other way. I had to cut it in half. And then when you get to 3rd and 4th grade, you learn division. That means we divide something out. So I'm gonna cut my recipe in half because I'm gonna make a small batch since I made a batch already. So the first thing I need to do is measure out a half a cup of pumpkin puree. Now I don't get stuff that has lots of sugar because doggies don't want sugar. Okay, so I'm going to do a half a cup, and I got to look to make sure it says 1/2. Now the recipe was actually 1 whole cup. And remember we talk about that? This is a half and this is a full cup. So 2 of these equals 1 of these. All right, so let's get a half a cup of pumpkin. It can be pumpkin puree, which is good. It has no spices or sugar. It's kind of like that orangey, dark orange, like brown. See that? So I'm going to just tell you, I just want to show you that. I'm going to put it right here in my mixer. All right? Because we're going to mix that up. Sometimes you could do it by hand, but today I'm going to do it by mixer. Sometimes you might have a mixer at home, and then other times we can use right with a whisk, right? So I can show you that too. All right. So then the next thing we need is 1 egg. Now the recipe wanted 2 eggs, but I'm cutting it in half, so 1 plus 1 is 2. So I only need 1. And remember how I said we just tap it a little bit, and then I use Mr. Pointer, Mr. Thumbkin, and I pull it apart. We don't want any shells in there. It won't hurt a dog, or it won't hurt a person if you eat a shell. Just makes it crunchy tasting. All right? The next thing we're going to need is peanut butter. Now, the whole recipe called for 1/3 of a cup. Well, 1/2 of a third, you're going to learn this in fractions. 1/2 of a third is 1/6. So I'm going to use, actually, I don't have a 1/6 measuring cup. So I'm going to just use 1/2 of a third. So I'm going to look by eye as close as I can to get to 1/2. And you can use any kind of peanut butter you want. Okay? You can use Skippy. You can use, this one is no brand name, so it doesn't matter. But what does matter is make sure it doesn't have sugar. Like there's a certain type of sugar that doggies can't have. So sometimes Mrs. Sotero eats a sugar like stevia sugar. It's a different type of sugar from a plant. Doggies can't have that. So anything that has like a sugar base, alcohol base, in a type of a sugar, doggies can't have that. So this is kind of a half. I didn't press it all the way down, but it's just like a half of 1/3. All right, so I'm gonna put that in my blender. Or remember, if you wanted to do it by hand, we could always use our whisk, right? I would put it right in my bowl and whisk it up. And I could do that too to show you that it's not much of a difference. This is just an easier way to do it today. So remember, you can do it with a whisk, or today, Mrs. Sotero's just doing it in an actual blender. All right, I'll put that off to the side. And remember, like I'm touching things, remember, I always wash my hands before I start cooking. Remember, we sing happy birthday 2 times, we counted 20. But before I started, and I made sure I had all of my things out on my table here and my counter, all my hands had to get washed. All right, so I'm going to put this on and let this do some work for us. All right? The next thing is I need a bowl. So I have a bowl right here. And we need to have 1 cup of flour. You can use white flour. You can use wheat flour. I don't use almond flour because, boy, that's pretty expensive for doggies. But I do use a lot of the white flour for my doggies. So there's 1 cup. Remember, I cut this recipe in half. So really needed 2. So I did 1 cup. I'll put that to the side. And you see, I'm done already mixing. So that was kind of a fast thing for me. Now we need cinnamon, remember? So we need 1/4 teaspoon, not tablespoon. Tablespoon's a big measuring. And so I got to look to see, oh, it says 1/4. That's 1/4. So that's all I need. And I'm just going to shake it out, remember? And then just make sure it's even. And that's 1/4 teaspoon. All right. So remember, only 5 ingredients today, right? And only brown and white. So here it is. That's a nice contrast. You know, we talk about that. White and brown. One's dark, one's light. So I'll use my whisk right now and make sure that all of my cinnamon and the flour is all mixed together. You can't really tell, but you can see a little bit of brown specks in there. That's from the cinnamon. And I love cinnamon smell. Now this one doesn't take a lot of muscles because it's very light. So I'm just going to use my pinch of grass and just kind of stir it a little bit around. And that's it. Can you believe it? So, it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to take this down and I'm going to get rid of that so I can show that to you. We'll put that in the sink. So I want to show you. See how creamy it is? And what we did is we just put the egg in there. We just put the peanut butter in there and the pumpkin. And it smells good. Like, it smells good to me. Like, if I ate this doggy biscuit, I wouldn't get sick because it's food that you would eat, right? But we're making it special for our doggies. So now that I have that, I'm just going to take my mixed up flour and put a little bit in here at a time. Not all at the same time. And then I have my spoon, so I'm just going to mix it up here a little bit. And this kind of looks like your cookie dough, like when mom or dad or grandmas or aunts or your sisters or brothers like to cook in the kitchen or bake. It looks like what we would do when we're doing sugar cookies, or you do pumpkin cookies. So I'm going to put a little bit more in here. Whoop! All of it went in. And that's okay. Don't worry about that. I try to do a little at a time because I don't want to make a big mess because flour can poof all over your kitchen. So we were going to do just a little at a time, but it all came in, and this is a deep bowl, so it should be okay. And then I'm going to show you. It's getting a little bit tougher when I'm mixing it around, and it should look like a little bit like a ball, so I'm going to show you that. So as soon as I get it all, I'm just going to show. Look at, do you see how when I'm rolling it around and twirling it, it turned into a ball? Can you see that? So it looks like a big ball. Now, it's a sticky ball. So what we need to do is I'm going to move all of these items away so I can show you, because we're going to need some flour on our board. So I'm going to take this machine away because we'll need the counter space. All right. So what I do need to do is add some flour to the surface of my counter. So right here is a flat surface. So I'm going to sprinkle this around. And this is what moms and bakers do. They put it on their board or their counter so that this way what we're baking doesn't stick. You don't want it just sticking. All right, so I'm gonna move that off to the side. The other thing that I brought out is my handy dandy roller. So this is a rolling pin and it helps to flatten out the dough. And then I also have a spatula. Now it looks pretty shiny because I sprayed it with some Pam. When you do that, it's a little bit easier to lift off the cookies. All right, remember, this is our goal today, is doggy biscuits or doggy cookies. All right, so now that I have my bowl, my big ball, I'm gonna drop it out. Do you see that? Just like a big ball of dough. We wanna get all of that together because our dogs, or if we're giving away those biscuits, this is such a good thing to do too. You know, around Christmas, we like to do things at Center Street. We like to collect things for the SPCA and the Horseheads Animal Shelter for all those doggies that are looking to find a home. And so we usually collect things like blankets and cookies or doggy biscuits or doggy food, stuff for cats. We usually do that every December. And so one thing that you could do if you want to do it ahead is actually make these. Now, one thing I would say is that if you're making this, we'd have to add the ingredients to make sure that some doggies might be on a special diet and maybe they can't have flour. So we want to make sure that we tell them. So you see it's sticky, so I'm going to add a little bit more flour. All right, so I sprinkled a little bit there. I'm going to put a little bit more on my counter. And then I'm just pressing it. And then remember we talked about this before, kneading it, we're rolling it. We didn't like the Play-Doh. When we did the Play-Doh, we were doing something. It almost feels like the Play-Doh. But only this is something you can eat, not just play with. All right, so I'm patting it down. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of flour and just roll it on my rolling pin. This will help it so it doesn't stick to the cookies, to the cookie batter, or the biscuit batter, the doggy biscuit batter. And I roll it side to side, up and down, side to side, up and down. What do you notice? Do you notice it's getting bigger? Yeah, because it's flattening out a little bit. Now, if I see that it's starting to stick like right here, easy solution, just a little bit more flour. We're just going to take that, maybe sprinkle it here. We don't want to do too much flour because it makes the dough like dry and crumbly. So we don't want to do too much. But it definitely needed some because it was sticking. All right. And we don't want the biscuit dough to be, the cookie dough for the doggies, to be so thick because we want them crunchy. Doggies love that crunch, crunch, crunch on biscuits, on their doggy bones too. Now, I only have this shape, but you might have a doggy bone shape. Mrs. Sotero was looking all over for a doggy bone shape, could not find one. So I said, well, we'll use the doggy shape that we have. And then you can use other shapes too. All right, so what I want to do is just take my cutter. This is my cookie cutter. Some of you may have made cookies before. And I know last year at Center Street when we had Buddy Day, we actually decorated cookies. We had some cookies and we decorated the sugar cookies and somebody made them cut out for us. So I'm going to press down hard because if your counter's not flat, it won't cut all the way around. And we want to keep the shape of the dog. So I'm going to press it down, my whole hand right down here. And then I just shake it a little bit. I left it out and it's a good shape. Now, I'm going to roll it a little bit in the flour and do it again. Remember, I'm going to press it down so it's even. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to just get some flour on here. Press it down. All right. And I'm going to do that again. All right. And let's see. We want to get this out, right? So I have my spatula here. Sometimes I could pull this out. Oh, look at this. I can pull some of it away. So that's good. And I have to be very gentle because I don't want to lose shape because my biscuits are supposed to look like a doggy. So this one looks pretty close. And you know, if it squeezes up a little bit, don't you worry about it because that's how we're learning. So, and we can always fix things. So I'm going to put that, whoops, I squeezed him a little bit. All right, so I can flatten him out and take a little bit of that piece. And because it's still doughy, you can help shape it again. So it's okay, because you know you want the shape of the dog, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But I want it to look like a doggy treat, and I want it to look like a doggy. All right, so now I'm going to move this part away, okay? And then I'm going to do this and try to get this one up. And remember, sometimes it comes out just perfect, and sometimes you have to work with it, and that's okay. So we don't want to lose his tail, but if we did, we could put it back on. All right, so now I'm going to slide him on, and I see that his ear right here, I'm just going to fix his ear. Squeeze his tail a little bit, because you know doggies have those little thin tails sometimes. Some doggies, big dogs, have really big tails. All right, and then I'm going to move this away. You see it's a little bit sticky on the counter. So may need some flour here. And maybe Mrs. Sotero has to put some more flour on my counter. Okay, and that's okay because we're problem solvers at Center Street. So I'm going to get this one out. Oh, we don't want to lose his ear. Oh, he's looking a little bit sloppy. Guess what? I really botched this one up. So you know what? He doesn't look like a doggy, does he? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smash them all up again. I'm going to knead him up again with some more flour. And that's the beauty of this. I got two good ones. But you know, at Center Street, we always say, hey, I didn't learn it yet, but I will. It's that power of yet. So I didn't get all of my cookies cut out yet, but I will. So now I'm going to just move this and have some more flour. Because I have two, but I want them to look like this one. This one turned out so good, right? But it's okay. So I'll roll him out a little bit. Roll him out. Remember, I roll side to side. Here we go, side to side and up and down. That's the neat thing about this. If you make a mistake, it's kind of like an eraser, isn't it? When you're in school, you erase something and said, oh, I made a mistake, I got to fix it. Well, I made a little bit mistake. It didn't come out as nice. I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to press it down and shake it a little bit. Oh, look at this one. Now, this is how my first one came out. Unbelievable. I want to show you this one. All right, let's take a peek. Maybe I just needed more flour on the board. So do you see this one? Whoa! Oh, I got it. Here we go. All right. So Mrs. Sotero's hands are kind of a little bit sticky. All right, but that one came out perfect. And now I'm going to do another one. And I'm going to shake it a little bit. So as I'm shaking it around, I'm actually getting it away. So that's a good piece. And I'm going to make another one, shake him away. Let's see. Remember, the counter has to have enough flour. If it doesn't, then that might happen. So let's take a look at him. We don't want him to. Oh, there he goes. I'm going to turn him around so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 doggies. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to put him right in the oven. And when I'm done in the oven, I do it for like 35, 40 minutes. And then I get these biscuits, and I'm going to show you a bunch more that I've made already on my sheet. Put some parchment paper. When I'm all done, I had this little piece left, and I just made him into a ball because dogs like to play with balls, and I baked him. So you see he's got his little ears, his tail, and his body, and I gave one to my dog before, and she loved it. So remember, you can share it with your doggie, or you can share it to give it away. All right, that's all we have today, boys and girls. Have a great learning day. Bye.